In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the healing tool to remove sections or to clone sections. So, on the right side with the rest of the tools, we have the healing tool. It looks like a little band-aid, and if we hover over it, we can see what its name is and its quick button, which is H. When we open up the healing tool, we can see that our size, I'll scoot over so that we can see it a little bit more, can be changed with this slider. We can also use the left and right bracket keys for quick edits, as well as being able to edit the feathering, which is how sharp the edges are or how soft and blurred out the edges are of the areas that we change. It's always a good idea to have just a little bit of feathering, otherwise it looks like a really big polka dot. And then the last thing is that we can adjust the opacity, how much or how little we're copying of a section. We can also change the healing mode, so it can be on heal, which takes information from around the area and tries to stitch it together, or clone, which directly copies a thing. So we'll show off heal first, and then I'll show you a little bit of cloning. So when using the heal brush, what we do is we define an area that we want to remove, and the computer will automatically try to figure out what we want to remove. I'm going to resize this so it's about the size of what I want to heal, and I think I'm going to cover this eye. And so I'll click and drag over just a little bit, and you can see that it chose this section over here to try to copy. This section, although it is a more blank thing, does give it a crackly effect, which is kind of nice, but maybe I want it to be more like the objects that are close to it. Or maybe I want to try up something really tricky and choose something that is different. While that's very interesting, it doesn't quite make a lot of sense. And if I move my cursor off to the side of the picture, it removes those editing anchors, or at least the visibility of it. We can also press quick button O to hide them temporarily, so that we can get a better sense of what things we are copying. And if we want to remove this because we're unhappy with it, we can just click on to one of the anchors and press delete, and that'll remove that editing. So what I think I want to remove is this little cork. And so I'm going to try to remove it, and it's going to randomly choose a section to copy. And I'm going to press O so I can see what it looks like. And that did a pretty good job. I can still see little amounts of the original cork. So maybe I needed to make it a little bit bigger, which is okay. So I'm going to size up my brush. I'm going to put O back on so I can see it. I'm going to draw over a little bit more. And that looks like it cleaned up a lot better. I'm going to try it over with the second one, and you can see that it'll copy that section. But notice how even if I try to copy a little bit more of the skull, it doesn't quite understand what to do with that. It's because it's copying that shape, and we can't really tilt it. So you'd have to use different editing techniques. And maybe I'd borrow from a little bit over here to try to get it to copy over here, but it doesn't quite make sense. So you do have to be strategic. And it's always a good idea to take a picture in the way that you want it to be. So maybe I tilt it or remove those corks beforehand so that it's easier to edit out. Now I'll show you the cloning mode. So on clone mode, what that does is it does a much more direct copy. It does less of this strange like stitching things together. And so I want to clone from somewhere else, and you can see that it's moved stuff from the wall. I think I want to clone in this eye. And that did a pretty good job, although it's kind of like going over the edge a little. You can see how sharp that edge is. There's a little bit of a feather, but if I move it just about there, that does a pretty good job of cloning it. And if I press O again, it kind of removes those editing anchors so that it's a little bit more clean. And I'm going to zoom out so that you guys can appreciate the edits that I made, but I think that looks pretty solid. Maybe it's a little bit too circular, and so I needed to edit it a little bit more, but for a first pass, not too bad. So that is the healing and cloning brush.